From confirming that Adrian Griffin has replaced Mike Budenholzer to how it's a risky appointment, all things considered, the Milwaukee Bucks have announced their new coach, and it's going to be Adrian Griffin, the former NBA journeyman. Big news, and possibly an underwhelming appointment, given the kind of names the Bucks were linked with and interviewed after firing Budenholzer. Griffin has plenty of experience playing in the NBA, having made his debut for the Boston Celtics in late 1999 and retired as a Supersonic in 2008. He spent those 10 years playing for 6 different franchises and then immediately got his first coaching gig as an assistant in Milwaukee. Of course, the Bucks back then were a completely different franchise, with very different expectations. But after gaining some valuable experience, Griffin moved to Chicago to be an assistant coach for the Bulls. It was something of a homecoming for the young coach, but he left that for a couple of other assistant roles before ending up in Toronto with the Raptors for 5 years. He clearly thought that 15 years as an assistant coach were enough experience, which is why he put his name in the hat for the vacant job in Milwaukee. It was a brave decision and one that paid off because the Bucks were more than happy to give him his first experience as a head coach as well. Griffin has plenty of experience, but also the taste of winning the championship, as he was part of the coaching team that helped the Raptors win the NBA back in 2019. Obviously, the Bucks think that Griffin has the mindset they need to get back to winning ways. But the question is, what can the Bucks fans expect to see from Adrian Griffin on the sidelines? If I had to compare him to another NBA coach, I'd say his impact should be similar to what the Lakers got out of that Darvin Ham appointment. For Milwaukee's sake, I hope the results are better than what Ham produced, but you can definitely expect a tight defense and a lot of grit from a Griffin team. After all, he made a name for himself in the NBA as a smart defender too, plus he was almost always tasked with defending the opposition's best perimeter players. That included interesting matchups against the likes of Kobe Bryant and LeBron James, and you can probably expect him to bring that mentality to translate into his coaching. The Bucks do play with a similar approach, so this transition won't be too hard for him to carry out, and he'll have some of the best defenders in the NBA doing his bidding. Oh yeah, Brook Lopez, Giannis Antetokounmpo, and Drew Holiday? That's a wet dream for a defensive coach. But before he gets to play around with that talent, Griffin will have a tall task on his hand, convincing Brook Lopez to stay, because he's set to enter free agency in 2023. I'm sure if Adrian's got any say in it, Lopez will be re-signed and should quickly become a major part of the team that Griffin will field. It looks like the Bucks weren't in the market for someone with fresh ideas. To me, it's apparent that they think their playing style is good enough to win them a championship. And the plan was to get someone who teaches the same brand of basketball, but in a different way. Along with a gritty style, you can expect a ton of player development to happen in Milwaukee. That's right, folks. Griffin is fantastic when it comes to getting the best out of his players. He did a superb job in Toronto under Nick Nurse, unlocking the potential of OG Anunoby and others. Similarly, Jimmy Butler of Miami Heat often credits Griffin for getting the most out of him and making him a much improved player back when the two were in Chicago. If Adrian can do something similar with Giannis, he'll be a successful appointment by the Milwaukee front office. The good thing is, unlike most other stars, Giannis welcomes new challenges and likes to add more weapons to his game. His shooting has been improving considerably over the last couple of seasons, plus there's also been a marked difference in his dribbling. Maybe Griffin can help Giannis become more efficient from beyond the arc? Who knows? That said, there's going to be tremendous pressure on Griffin. The good thing is, he knows and welcomes it. In his introductory conference, Griffin was asked about the talent on the roster and the expectations of what this team should be achieving. His response was that he acknowledges the high expectations and believes that the franchise will embrace them. In fact, he went a step further to point out that the foundation has been laid out. The Bucks aren't a franchise looking to add to their core, they've got a strong culture. And all the front office asks of Griffin is to maximize the special talent they have, which can only be done by winning the NBA. The new head coach also believes that his experiences as a player will be very important, as he thinks going drafted and emerging through a minor league route made him a better player, teaching him the value of hard work. I told you guys, expect a lot of fight from this Milwaukee side. A team overflowing with talent, working hard as well. Giannis might just get his hands on a second ring, you know. It's not going to be easy finding that sweet spot though, and Griffin will have a fair share of challenges to deal with. For instance, he'll be judged on how the Bucks do in the playoffs. I've always maintained how it's unfair for franchises and coaches to get judged on the postseason, because that way you're discounting all the hard work the team put in during the regular season. Unfortunately, that's how the NBA works. It's a cutthroat league, and Griffin won't be immune to such standards. He already knows there's going to be a lot of pressure on him, but he'll need to understand that no matter what the Bucks do in the regular season, one misstep in the playoffs and the jury's going to be out on him. That's why Mike got the sack, because he'd done enough to lead the Bucks to the best record in the entire league, but the Bucks embarrassed themselves in the 2023 playoffs and got out-coached big time by Eric Spoelstra, which is going to be the second biggest challenge for Griffin. When you have arguably the best player in the NBA at your disposal, you're not supposed to get out-coached by other coaches. Budenholzer, as good as he was, simply didn't deliver consistently in the playoffs. The onus is on Griffin to produce something new, something that works on a consistent basis. His coaching will be under scrutiny throughout the regular season. It'll be interesting to see how he changes up the roster and what kind of backup plans he comes into games with. In-game coaching, in particular, will be crucial to his success, but he's got a lot of experience, and there's no doubt that he'll try his best to bring that to the table in Milwaukee. More importantly, though, he's got the stamp of approval of the person that matters the most, Giannis Antetokounmpo. Yep, that's right. Milwaukee had shortlisted 3 candidates for the job, which included Kenny Atkinson and Griffin's ex-boss, Nick Nurse. Both those coaches have considerable head coach experience, but the reason the Bucks went with Adrian was Giannis. Shams Charania confirmed that the Greek Freak made his preference clear and gave Griffin his endorsement, which played a big part in the Bucks finalizing the deal. Wow, that makes Griffin's job just a bit easier, because if you've got the best player rooting for you, then the others will definitely buy into your philosophy too. Although you can't quite overlook how it is still a risk, regardless of Griffin getting Giannis's approval. A player's approval is only good enough to get you the job, but from that point onward, you're on your own. Griffin will know that. He's not new to the sport, but he'll also know that there were some big names applying for that job. So it's inevitable that after every slip-up, the media will question the Bucks and the organization will question themselves over whether it was the right call to go with someone with no experience as a head coach. Then again, every appointment in the NBA is a risk, and a lot needs to go in your favor for the marriage to be successful. Griffin has the tools to make it work. All he needs to do is keep it simple and coach to his team's strengths. Before it gets to that, though, it's good that Giannis is already on the same page, and he can use that influence to convince both Brook Lopez and Chris Middleton to stay, at least for another season. There will be pressure from the ownership, too, because there are a lot of things to sort out financially. Griffin has his work cut out for him. So, from being a risky appointment to confirming that Adrian Griffin has replaced Mike Budenholzer, the Milwaukee Bucks have announced their new coach.